My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Gallop Out. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson. This is my co-host, Jackson Muniz. Jackson, we're back, and we're on some new channels. We got big news that, I did not break on Twitter. In the Money broke it, and that's right. We're part of the In the Money gang. I know you are already working for them, but the Gallop Out and all of our shows and future programs are going to be available exclusively on In the Money starting next week. So we'll touch on that, obviously, a couple times, but big news, Jackson.
No, for sure. Pretty exciting. Obviously, I've been working with them for a couple of years now, but glad to bring you aboard, and couldn't be more excited. We got to hang out with the crew this weekend at the Breeders' Cup, and I had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun seeing everybody. Pete, Mikey P, Rick, the whole gang. But yeah, most excited to join the In the Money fam and put all of our videos up there. Obviously, we had a ton of videos that went up last week for the Breeders' Cup. That was fun. Not my best betting weekend, I will say, but Forever Young, one of my strongest opinions won, so I got to feel good about that. Jackson's drinking coffee at 4 p.m. Absolutely nuts. You had the tagline of the almighty Copian in your thing, but we've had to remove that because she probably should have run against the girls. But, what are you going to do?
She should have run a different race. She could have run in the dirt mile, probably would have won that, but we don't have to talk about it too much. She ran okay. She ran her race. Just her race is not 6 furlongs. That's all.
That's very fair. I think she still got like a 95 for it or something. Or 96 or 97. Anyway, before we dive on in, we should just mention we're now on In the Money, as I mentioned. Audio available anywhere you get your podcasts. As our friend Emmett Kennedy said, all the good ones, even some of the not so good ones. But if you need an audio listen, go ahead and find us there now. And also check out all the In the Money content over at inthemoneypodcast.com. I'll go over this a couple times throughout today's show, but remember, next week, all of our shows will just be on the In the Money socials, possibly my YouTube too. But, stay tuned and see. But Jackson, this Saturday, Churchill Downs, the late pick 5. It's nice, it's stacked, it's competitive. We have 2 stakes to go over, as well as 3 other very competitive fields, including 1 turf route that I think could be pretty much anybody in the field.
Yeah, after last week, the Breeders' Cup, I'm like, okay, yeah, that was the big weekend. We're going to have some time to unwind. It's going to be nothing going on the next couple weeks. No, not at all. Churchill this Saturday, this sequence we're going to cover is really good. I also did a podcast with Mikey on the In the Money channel for Woodbine on Saturday. Woodbine's got a great card, and I think Aqueduct has a great card on Saturday too. So even though the Breeders' Cup is over, there's a lot of good racing still going on this fall.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned Aqueduct has a really good card. I think bet Flavian Pratt every race. I think that gets you everything that you need for the winter meet at Aqueduct. That guy is on an absolute tear. 11 wins in the past 2 race cards, I believe is what it is right now. And I mean, that sounds ridiculous to even say. But regardless, we're going to go into the Churchill Downs late pick 5. Where we have the other best jockey in the world. That's Irad Ortiz, or in the country, I should say, I guess, while Ryan Moore is on the men. But we'll get on into it. We're going to start with race number 7. We're going 7 furlongs, $80,000, non-2 winners. Lifetime picks are up on the screen. I'm going 5-1-8. Jackson 6-4-5. Jackson, we'll start with you, my man. You're going with the 6. Good Lord, J.K. Sweezy and Luis Saez.
Good Lord. Yeah. Tough way to start, I thought. I thought this was a really difficult race. You got 9 horses in this field. None of them love to find the winner's circle. A lot of these horses settle for shares. This is certainly one of them. Good Lord. But I liked what I saw that last race at Keeneland. It was against a decent group. He was finally forwardly placed for the first time in quite some time. And that may have been the difference in that spot because he got forward. There was 3 horses kind of dueling, and he got the better of both of them despite being in between and kind of a tricky spot. And he held on, stuck on well to the wire, finished 4th, beating a neck. but the number came back strong, and now he found himself in a race with a really weird pace scenario. There's not a confirmed front runner in this race, and with Luis Saez taking over, I gotta think the plan is to go again. And if he's able to get fourthly place in this spot, we mentioned this is a group that does not like to win. And if you can get ahead of the bunch, maybe some of them just don't want to pass anyone. And he could be very difficult to pass in the stretch, as we know, especially about Luis Saez. So give me Good Lord at 12-1. I think he's as good as anyone in this spot, and he's going to be a much more attractive price than a few others we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I don't hate the points that you made whatsoever. I think that it was really valid. Yeah, last time out was more forward, and I think you got a bit of a better result. Ran behind Nation last time, who was a West Coast runner who, plummeted to it for a really low tag over the summer, but has kind of worked his way back up, and now he's winning starter allowance company. So he's a very respectable horse, and I don't know how much of it feels like kind of a lateral step to go from the starter allowance 30 into this 80 non-2, if anything, especially considering those races were at Keeneland, which is obviously a premier meet. So I'm in agreement that I think Saez is going to have this one forward. I have this one on my pick 5 ticket, but didn't throw this one in my top 3. My top choice, though, is the number 5 Middy's Gritty. I know the price you get isn't all that attractive, but the class drop, I think, is a big one. 2 back, I like that effort. That was on a slow pace where the pace held together up front. Last time out was given very little chance. Taylor's version went wire to wire in good-looking fashion there. And I know the number didn't come back great, and I know I'm going to have to take a short price, but I've seen this move work time and again for the connections of Brad Cox. And he gets the likes of Irad Ortiz. That's a bit of an upgrade from Florent Giroux, if I'm being nice about it. I just think Irad's going to have this horse in a great spot. It is wide open. I probably shouldn't have just gone with the chalk here, but I think this is a very clear horse to beat off that class drop.
Yeah, look, I have him in 3rd. He's definitely logical. You kind of mentioned it, though. I don't think he's any better than anyone else is the point I'm trying to get at. And he is going to be favored here, just going out for Brad Cox, going out for Irad Ortiz, dropping class a little bit. He's okay. He's definitely a win contender. But I think if you're betting this place vertically, he's just, for me, he's too short of a price to take on the win end. But this is a difficult race. There's a lot of contenders in the spot.
That's fair. And going off of time form, he does have an early pace of 99, which is faster than the 88, but I'm with you. I think contention goes a long way in a race like this. And I don't know that Irad is going to be more aggressive than Saez to get to the front. I think Irad is maybe the more aggressive rider overall, but I think Saez, really prioritizes getting to the lead. And I think Saez being towards the outside probably helps Good Lord over Middy's Gritty, but we'll see.
I guess the final thing I can say about this horse is when he won on debut, he had everything goes on. It was a fast pace, it collapsed, and he was able to win. He came back, had things his own way again on the lead and slow pace at Ellis, and ran well again. But then last time he didn't have everything go his own way, and he was not great. So is he going to be able to run well in this spot if everything doesn't go exactly the way he needs? At a short price, I'm not quite sure that's something I want to be banking on.
Hey, that's very fair. That's why we play the game. So we'll go down. Next horse that we'll talk about. Actually, we'll go back to you. We'll go to the 4 with Risk It. Asmussen and Keith James aboard. Asmussen owns this one, has his son riding. You picked this one in 2nd.
Yeah, another one that does not like to win too often. Just 1 for 20, several slices. I will say he's only had 1 try at this level, and it was a good second. And at least, it's not like he's lost at this level 5 or 6 times. He's been the beaten favorite all these races. He's only lost at this level 1 time, and he ran 2nd in there. I do like that Asmussen bothered to claim him back. I think that's usually a good sign that when these trainers do that, and then they immediately put him back into tougher company. Now that race didn't quite work out. It was a sloppy track. He didn't run well, but now he's back in a more realistic spot. I'm hoping he can be more forwardly placed too. He's run well at this racetrack. Just another that makes some sense in this race where contention runs deep.
Yeah, and you can tell that he was confident in this claim because he put him right back into protected company. And honestly, you could probably scratch the effort on the wet track because he's had 2 efforts. He's on the wet sloppy sealed going. He's finished off the board in both of them. Maybe even though he's by gun runner out of a broken vow mare, maybe that's just not his thing. Maybe it was a level too high. And you mentioned he did have a decent second here last time out over this track at this level. So I do think that one's relatively logical. I'll dive down to the rail to talk about Terrapin Station for Dale Romans. This one's coming 2nd off the layoff. Comes out of a 7-furlong allowance race at Keeneland behind BU, who clearly was well meant that day. That horse won like a pretty good thing. I just thought I like Dale 2nd off these kind of layoffs. He's not going to rush them back. The drop I'm not super concerned about. I think based on his 3 runs to his career, he fits here. I also think from the rail, Corey Lanerie is kind of going to have to be a little more aggressive out of there. I think that he's going to have to use this colt early, get some forward position. I don't know that that's going to get him to the lead, but Lanerie loves to stay on the rail. So I anticipate him in that kind of second flight, and we'll see if any sort of pace comes back to him. But I thought Terrapin Station deserved a little bit of a look. What's up?
Nothing.
All right.
I hate the rules. I think it's no chance.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. I'll go.
He reminds me of Tamara from last week because that's a horse that's going to take money, and he needs to take a huge step forward and run a race he's never run before to even be in contention in this spot. Like that's a short price to swallow, and he did no running last time. The pace collapsed, and he was dead last still.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're not wrong. But I do think that first up off the layoff to second off, you see drastic improvement from Dale Romans. I'm hoping this one gets overlooked a little bit. 4-1 isn't super enticing. I wouldn't take anything lower than that on the win end, but I do think he's a threat in a race like this. Last one we'll talk about is the number 8 on the level. Kerry Bryan brings this one in from Delaware. And, obviously we don't know what he was facing there. Probably not anything, any sort of world beaters, but he got Lasix. He got the addition of blinkers. He showed that new dimension, got to the front, drew off, and won nicely. Now Kerry Bryan's going to make the ship down here for 3 Diamonds Farms. You get the attraction of Jose Ortiz aboard. You get the outside post or one of the farther outside posts in a race that we've said is pretty devoid of speed. And sometimes that's all it takes in here. So broke the maiden at a maiden special weight level, which you like to see. Again, don't know what he was facing, but he did it the right way. He was a little above odds on in there. Comes in here, next out winner out of that maiden race. So I think this one deserves a look. Should be forward early, has had a couple nice works out of that last race as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we've talked about there's a weird pace scenario in this race. He's certainly one that's going to be involved, and he has the outside post, so he's going to get a good trip in this spot.
I certainly hope he's going to be involved early, or else my plans are going out the window. Chris Couples commenting in here. Thanks for watching. Tough race. I think the 9 is a must use. The Warden, did you give this one any sort of a look for Phil D'Amato, Francisco Arrieta, excuse me?
Yeah, he's been all right. He's another. If they're aggressive with him, I can see him being in the mix. He's just been a little too slow for my liking. He's got to improve to be competitive against this bunch. Yeah,
I'm with you. I share that. And his best dirt races came at Oaklawn. I just don't always love taking those horses elsewhere. But Phil D'Amato, first off the claim, is 46%. So it's not something he does often, but a 670 ROI is not something you want to ignore over the past year. All right, race 7 at Churchill. I'm going 5-1-8, Jackson 6-4-5. We'll move on to race number 8. We're going a mile on the grass. It's 2-year-olds, fillies, maiden special weight. Picks up on the screen. I'm going 11-3-10. Jackson's going 5-3-2. Jackson, take it away with the 5. Breaking Hearts for Cherie.
Cherie for 3. Yeah, this is another tricky race. The 3 is way the horse to beat, in my opinion. We'll get to the 3 horse, but the 5 I thought was at least a little interesting in a race where a lot of the other contenders are kind of just, I don't know, they weren't that inspiring, I guess is the word I would use. This is a horse I was at least able to watch some film on in the mornings. He had a workout at Turfway Park back in September with a horse that came back and ran okay at Keeneland. He was like 5th. I should have written the name down. But the horse came back and was 5th. Keeneland closed into a really slow pace and ran okay. A little bit of an underrated trip. But this horse clearly outworked the other one, the mate. And I thought just has some potential. I thought there was ability here. And I know Cherie is not great with this move, going the 2 turns first time out. But if you go dive into the formulator a little bit. 2 turns first time out on turf, the ROI it's like $14. It's ridiculous because she only wins at very low. She only wins like 7-8%, but the ROI is sky high. So when she does win, they're popping at big numbers. And I think this is a filly that does have some ability. So I put her on top, but very willing to acknowledge that the 3 horses is way the horse to beat.
Yeah, we'll talk about the 3 real quick. But while we're on the topic of Cherie, the reason I wasn't attracted to that horse was because typically for those live runners, Cherie gets a guy like Jose Ortiz to be the jockey. And not that she hasn't had success with Corey Lanerie, who's going to be aboard. But Jose taking the ride for Nicholas Vacareza, not someone he rides for a lot, only 4 rides in the past year. Going to ride a first-time starter here. So I actually threw the 10 in third, thinking it was just interesting that, Vacareza and Connections reached out to Jose for that. Being by Maxfield, he's been off to a pretty strong start. Obviously, I think he's a little bit better on dirt, but he's thrown some very capable turf runners as well. I just thought that was a little bit interesting. So that's kind of why I threw Jose Ortiz and the number 10, Sarah Lunga, in there in third, just because, again, I thought the jockey bookings were a little bit interesting, thinking if the 5 was, a really live runner, maybe Jose would be aboard. But at the end of the day, it might not mean much. So let's talk about the 3, Petronella. Debuted at Kentucky Downs, going 6.5 for Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone. Lost by about 3/4 of a length to Should've. Should've was pretty good. Getting Serious came out next time to win, and break her maiden, I should say. She was actually entered today in a race, Jackson, that you, Noah, and myself were all discussing. Ended up getting scratched at the gate after acting up a little bit. I don't know that anyone is going to beat Deep Learning in that race, but that's for an entirely separate conversation. But we are familiar,
and that nobody wanted to beat her. Nobody wanted to run.
Nobody wanted to do it. But Petronella, to get back to Churchill Downs, this one, obviously, you got to love the breeding top and bottom here. Not this time out of a more than ready mare. But you picked this one in second, as did I. Clearly the horse to beat.
Yeah, way the horse to beat. I mean, she ran well on debut. It was at Kentucky Downs. You mentioned as a quality field. Should've came back and was third in the stake. Getting Serious came back and won. I think someone else came back and ran either first or second with another strong number. So clearly a pretty strong race for the level. And she was able to close into a very moderate pace and ran well. You got to expect, inside post. She's going to move forward more distance with that start under her belt. It's not going to take much improvement, if any, to win this race for her. It's more of a matter of can anyone else in this field run, because that's the big question. I thought of everyone else that has run, they're just kind of whatever.
I agree with that last statement. Everybody else that has run has not impressed me whatsoever. Petronella was visually impressive first time out. Kentucky Downs, obviously a little bit of a weird place to start, and you're not going to get any sort of a price on Petronella here. I'm curious to see how this race is bet, because my top pick in the race is the number 11, Dagmara, who I think should be vying for favoritism if this one is a live runner out of the Brad Cox barn for Don Alberto Stables. Irad takes the mount. Omaha Beach, obviously on the top side, very precocious with his 2-year-old first-time starters, around 16%. It was the dam side that interested me. Obviously, the dam side and the dam is good at going 2 turns on the turf, being by Dynaformer. But when you look at I meant to go to the siblings, multiple turf route winners in the family, girl named Charlie Dominga that Brad Cox trained. And then you get into some others, but you also have Mine Runner a little bit down. That was lower levels, but the fact remains this one has turf through and through, especially with the 2 turns. I like Cox when he goes 2 turns on debut. He can typically debut some live ones. Don Alberto, they don't typically rush their 2-year-olds, out to the racetrack. So you don't see a whole lot of them early on in the year, but as they get developing later on, you start to see some really talented animals. I feel like this might be one of them. Got to overcome the 11 post first time out, and your main rival Petronella drew very well at the 3, but I'm going to take a stab against that favorite. I'm going to go with Dagmara. I'm going to hope that, she's a very clear second choice, maybe vying for favoritism. I just need to see her live on the board, and that will give me all the confidence I need, because I think the money's going to go a long way in here. Because as you mentioned, of the horses that have run, I don't think anything is super impressive. Even Petronella, I think second time out could be beat by a horse with a lot of talent.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about this 11. I will say I watched one of her most recent works, and she was very clearly outworked by a Brad Cox horse that has won, but it was the horse won a maiden claimer at Horseshoe Indianapolis. So I didn't love that. But as you mentioned, the pedigree is all turf. So I don't know how much stock I want to put into the fact that this horse is not working well on the dirt. So yeah, I agree. Watch the board on this filly. The money should be very telling.
Money should be telling. I was a little bit surprised, Jackson, you didn't pick the number 12 Mystery Date. You love this. You love these Riley Mott, Justify, Jaime Torres first-time starters. So I really thought, I thought I had you pegged there. But we'll go to the number 2, Empress Sissy, horse you picked in third. Thought this one had a shot for Chris Landeros.
Yeah, look, I don't love her in this spot, but I will say at least she is running numbers that are pretty close to what the favorite has run this far. I went back and watched the race. I thought she ran just okay at Keeneland. A lot of the trouble was very overrated. It was all self-caused, and I worried that she'll be overbet based on those comment lines. But I will say, again, the numbers are close to what it's going to take to be competitive with the favorite in this spot. And also Ian Wilkes horses almost always get better with more racing. So if she continues to go the right way, she won't be surprised. It won't be surprising if she takes a step forward.
Yeah, I could see Empress Sissy taking a step forward too. That's kind of a long shot that I think deserves a look. I mentioned the number 10, Sarah Lunga. Last one I want to briefly touch on, just something that caught my eye, thought it was a little bit interesting. You can see Super Dreamy is cross-entered in a race at Aqueduct. I thought it was worthwhile that one obviously is bred for the turf, Irish bred top and on the top side out of a More Than Ready dam. I thought it was interesting. Irad takes the call here. I think this is his second preference. He's, obviously listed first preference on the Brad Cox runner that is my top pick. Thought this one was a little bit interesting should she draw into the race. So just something to maybe keep a bit of an eye on. But we'll wrap up race number 8. I'm going 11-3-10, Jackson 5-3-2. Chris says 2 needs a pilot. We'll let you dissect the meaning of that. I'm going 11-3-10. Jackson's going 5-3-2. We'll go on to race number 9. We're going 6.5 for the straight 3-year-olds. Optional claimer, non-winners of 2 other than picks are going up on the screen. And how did I know that this was going to be your top pick? I just got to turn it over to you. It's Speed King. It's the 3rd time we've covered this horse, and the 3rd time I think you picked him on top. So take it away, Jackson.
Yeah, not surprising that I picked this guy. He is a horse I loved all spring. But when I went through this field, all the horses that are going to take money here, they're all kind of just, I don't know. I wasn't in love with any of them. And I do think Speed King is the upside horse in this race. He obviously needs to get better and run back this race as we saw early last winter because the Rebel was no good. Neither was the Arkansas Derby. The Max field was okay. I think that race is better than the number just based on what everyone has come back to do out of there. But they've given him some time off again. And look, as we said, that race at Oaklawn, that was the Southwest. That was a monster race. It was a fast pace. He was always a part of it. And then they flew in the second quarter and third quarter when they just opened up on the field, made a big mid-race move, and he still had enough in the tank to win. And everyone went crazy for Sandman because Sandman got a dream pace and still couldn't win. But Speed King ran way better than he did in that spot. So I think he's a horse that was running well going a mile just based on who he was facing early in his career. But he's probably going to be best around 1 turn. This is what he's always wanted to do, and he's getting the opportunity to do so today against a field that I find to be pretty suspect. So I like that he's drawn outside. He's quick. He's getting Lasix for the first time. If he runs back those races, at Remington Park and in the Southwest, he's going to be a handful for this group. It's just a matter of does he still have those races in him?
Yeah, he's got to replicate that form outside of Oaklawn, but he's had good races at Churchill before. I wonder how he comes back. He does get first-time Lasix, and you got to love that, 3 back, he's clearly still firing on all cylinders. That was a very strong bullet work on October the 11th, excuse me. Tyler Gaffleone also takes them out. You don't get a guy like Bejarano, Edgar Morales. Obviously, Junior Alvarado is probably up in New York, but getting a top rider like Tyler Gaffleone, I think speaks to, the fact that this runner's live. Coming back at 6.5, much better than coming back at 7. I think 7 is a very hard task to do. Coming back at 6.5, he meets probably the easiest group of horses he's going to meet since, maybe even his maiden race, depending on how, the form you look at with Coal Battle and the form he was in that early, and that was also going 2 turns. So, yeah, he's getting back to 1 turn. He drew well to the outside, so I'm with you. I picked this horse in 3rd. I do have a bit of respect for him because I do think he can come back in a good way. So I'll go to my top pick in the 4, Jack's Time. Shout out Eric DeCoster. Prairie Meadows. Look, just because this horse is running against Iowa breds does not mean that this horse can't face open company. 2 back, obviously going 2 turns, faced Allowance Company and blew them away. That was also at Prairie Meadows. Is going to get a bit of a class test here. Hasn't run, I would say, nearly as competitive outside of Prairie Meadows. When you look to that second career start in the Iroquois, losing to Jonathan's Way and Owen Almighty, given those were pretty strong horses at the time, finished 3rd to, I believe that's Authentic Stark, and look on the cross. Look to the cross, excuse me. But this horse is in a good vein of form right now, has improved in every start of his 3-year-old campaign, which I like to see. 2 starts, 3 starts back, paired up those buyer tops, Jackson, that you like to see, and then you saw that progression to a 94. So there's no reason for me to think that coming out here, this one can't take another step forward. You get a jockey like Luis Saez getting reunited, rode this one last time going 2 turns at Keeneland back in last fall and last October. This one's curious to me just because I think he might get a bit overlooked in the betting. And I think he does have the kind of tactical sort of speed that you want in a race like this. And I think Sias is going to make sure to get that position early. I don't want to see him up on the lead, but I think he can be close. And I think that might kind of get the job done if Speed King maybe isn't all the way cranked up. Because at the end of the day, Speed King is a stakes horse. So I don't know that Moquette's going to have this one ready for an A+ effort, but he might be ready to fire an A effort. And I mean, he is fast. So when he's on his game, he's going to be tough. But I did think Jack's Time certainly has the breeding, certainly has the form to go the right way right now. Kind of the now horse.
So you think he can win from off the pace is what you're saying?
I do think so.
Not
too far off the pace. I just think he can win from off the pace.
Because he's not making the lead in here, right? There's no way.
No.
I don't think he's fast enough. I don't mind the pick. Like, he's a horse that's run fast enough races to be competitive. And these two favorites are just, we're going to talk about them, but they're kind of they're okay. I mean, their form is very exposed, whereas this horse at that price is not. I think that's not a bad bet at all.
There we go. Hey, I'll take it. We'll talk about the number 2, Gardner. This one is one of the 2 favorites in here that you mentioned. This one's very exposed. We've kind of seen all of what this horse has to offer. Cleared the first level allowance condition, now goes into the optional claim non-2. Not to mention, last time out, that was an off-the-turf effort. So I know I picked this horse in second, but that's just kind of the consistency that I've seen. Has never been out of the exact end 6 tries, so clearly a hard trier, and is always kind of knocking heads, given a level below, but is always still knocking heads and runs very competitive speed figures. So trained by Joe Sharp and ridden by Jose Ortiz, they obviously have a ton of success together, and Joe Sharp's a very good trainer. He's had a banner year through and through. I wanted to pick this one in second, and that was kind of a vertical sort of a pick for me. This is a good horse, I think, to key in that second, third spot. Again, he always runs a good race, and he has had steady progression in his 3-year-old season as well. So I don't think he's out of it. I think he's certainly got a shot. He's just going to be too low of a price for me to take on the win end.
Yeah, I just don't love that his last 2 wins, while the numbers came back okay, they were done on very soft paces. They were not quick. Yeah. And he was able to take advantage. And, if he runs back to that 86, it's probably not good enough to win, because there's a lot of horses in here that have all run faster than him. So at the price he's going to be, he's not for me.
I agree. We'll go to the rail horse. Perfect Force is for you. If Keith James has a good day, you're going to have a good day. You like this one on the rail, again, trained by Steve, ridden by Keith.
I'm going to use them a little bit more as a saver than anything. I think this pace has a chance to really get crazy on the front end, because if we're looking at this field, the 2 is best races all come on the lead. Jack's Time, same thing, best races are on the lead. Kalahari Dreams have 2 big numbers, both came on the lead. Mischief Rivers, best races on the lead. Speed King's definitely going. I mean, there is a chance this thing they go bonkers on the front end, and it just falls apart, and it kind of falls into the lap of Perfect Force, who I think needs everything to go his way to win this race. But I have always thought he'd better at one turn. Again, he's more of a saver pick if this thing goes crazy, because his last couple of races, they're just okay. They're nothing special, but I do want to use him as the best closer if this thing heats up unexpectedly.
Yeah, I like it. This one could certainly fall into the lap of Keith James. I probably like this one a little more at 7 than I do at 6.5, but the point remains, if they do heat things up top, this one is a proven closer from off the pace. We'll go to a horse that I think is a little bit interesting as well. Didn't make my top 5, but You Devil You, trained by John Ortiz. You like this one, picked him in second.
Didn't make your top 5, huh? How many picks?
Top three. Top 3.
No, he's another, I think, is going to get a good trip in here. He's on the outside. Both of his wins have come from off the pace. So I feel like I have this race, we're getting to our pick 5s. I think I have this race covered with all 3 prices. And I have Speed King on the lead. I have UW from a little bit off of it, and the one from the clouds. And again, he's a horse that 2 back, ran a 92 buyer, and got the trip that day that he's probably going to get in this race, where he was just parked on the outside. He was just a little bit off of it, got clear sailing, and just kind of beat those horses to the wire. Then last time he came back, he ran okay in that stake race behind Smokin' Wicked. Smokin' Wicked is a very good sprinter, and he ran fine in there. I think getting Lasix back will be key for this horse, and I'm just hoping he trips out in this spot. So he's another one that's run races that are fast enough to win, and I feel confident using him a little bit at a price. Yeah,
he's certainly one that could trip out in this spot. Has a good kind of stalking off the pace kind of pace style, or run style rather. So yeah, I'm not going to talk you off of UW. You certainly get a good price and a very capable trainer.
What are your
John Ortiz.
What are your thoughts on the 5? Because neither of us have him anywhere, and he is the morning line favorite. So I feel like we do need to talk about him.
Yeah, we should talk about him. That's a good call. He's going to get so overbet in this spot. I mean, Irad takes enough money as it is, and sure, this horse can win. But as you said, 2 best efforts came up on the lead. I don't know that he's going to get the lead uncontested. That's just not a chance I really want to take in here. So that was why he didn't make my top 3. He's not going to be on my tickets either. Just one I didn't want to have. One that I would be happy if I lost to this horse. Just going to get overbet. Not really worth it in my book. You?
No, I agree. I mean, his 2 wins came on the front end. He is not faster than Speed King. And unless they ride Speed King the wrong way, like that horse is going to get over on this guy. And he is not run a race that's nearly fast enough to win from off the pace. So at 5-2, I don't need him anywhere.
I'm with you. We'll wrap up race number 9. I'm going 4-2-7. Jackson's going 7-8-1. Real quick, before we get into the 2 stakes races that we have to talk about, for everybody watching on ABR or on the my X handle 20 lengths clear, or on the Gallop Out on YouTube, head over to In the Money. You can watch all of our future shows on the Gallop Out on the In the Money X channel or In the Money YouTube. Obviously, after the live show will be done, they will all be available on the In the Money YouTube as well. Be sure to head over there. Make sure to like and comment in the video. Come participate in the live chat. Don't forget to subscribe to In the Money, as well as they have a ton of excellent content, and we are now included in that excellent content. So head on over there, because starting next week, that's where you'll be able to find all of our shows. We will now move on to race number 10. It's one of the 2 stake races we get to cover. This one's a listed stakes for 3-year-old fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, rather. Picks are up on the screen. I'm going 9-8-10. Jackson's going 9-7-3. Feel like we haven't agreed on a top pick in quite some time. So we got to go to the 9. It's Minx Palace, 8-1. You and I both landed on this one. I'll let you take it away. Go ahead. What do you like about Minx Palace on top?
I thought I was being nice and clever in this spot. I'm going to pick an 8-1.
I did too.
He could be like my best bet of the sequence. Nope. Ryan just saw my picks and decided to
nope.
Per usual. Shocker.
Never the case.
I do think she makes a lot of sense. And I didn't think we were going to get 8-1 to begin with. And now I'm pretty confident it's going to be more like half of that. Yeah. Isn't she the only closer in the race? Like, she's the only proven closer, I feel like. The 7, Our Disaster, who we'll get to, has one way to go. The second choice, Hilarito, has one way to go. She's going to be forward. Jersey Pearl's usually up there. Talison's up there. Sudden Switch only wins when she's close. I mean, there's real potential for this thing to get really hot in the front end. And it's just going to fall into the lap of Minx Palace from off the pace. And look, she's run races that are plenty good enough to be competitive in here. If you get rid of Our Disaster's most recent race where she had absolutely everything her own way, I don't think it's going to happen in this spot. So, the 88 buyer puts her right in the mix. And that was a good race last time. Positano Sunset is a grade 1 winner, if I'm not mistaken. Tax is a good horse when she gets to set up. I mean, those are good horses. And I don't know. I just think she makes a lot of sense in this race. She's run against better competition, and she's supposed to get a setup. So give me her on top. I hope we get near the 8-1 that the morning line says. And I'm singling her. I didn't see her take it yet, but I'm singling this horse in the Big 5.
Nice. Well, I love the single on your end. I'm not singling Minx Palace, but I do have a strong opinion. Yeah, you and I think we were both trying to be independently clever, and we both came to the same conclusion. We probably spent too much time around each other. But needless to say, yeah, Positano Sunset, if she was in this field, she's obviously the heavy favorite, or if not heavy favorite, clear favorite, in my opinion. That is a grade 1 winner and a very consistent mare. I believe she is. I believe she's a mare. Anyway, this 4-year-old filly's in a good vein of form, keeps improving. You can see the kind of confidence. She's been knocking at the door. She's been real close. I think this is the time where everything kind of goes her own way. She hasn't really had that setup recently where she's been able to, really showcase that kind of late turn of foot that she has. Not that she has, one comparable to turf, but she certainly has one on dirt. She is a defined closer, as you said, the only one in the race. So I have to take this runner. I didn't single her. I'll be honest. I didn't single her on top, but I did fade a lot of the pace horses in here because I don't think any of them scare me. I think Our Disaster, you mentioned, very quick, had everything such her own way last time out. She's not going to get that here. She's going to face a lot of pressure. And yeah, this race just seems to set up for a horse like Minx Palace.
Agreed.
All right. I'll go right to the inside real quick. Marmalade Sky for David Jacobson. Now, David Jacobson has 2 runners in here. He also has the 4 Hilarito, who last time out at Keeneland finished second to One Magic Philly. One Magic Philly, obviously a good West Coast horse, sprinter, 1 turn, everything like that, whatever. Hilarito is not going to make the lead alone. I think that they're going to really heat things up. And I don't love the Jacobson off Lasix angle. I think he's something like 8 or 9%, I want to say. I'd have to double check that on dirt sprints. But I don't really want a horse like this who really only has one way of going. I thought, if anything, if they really heat things up, this one also has some nice wins coming from off the pace going this 1-turn distance. So I wanted to give Luan Machado a shot. Marmalade Sky Jacobson also owns this horse. I just thought, again, if they really heat things up and if Marmalade Sky happens to get a better trip, they're both going to be kind of sitting, Marmalade Sky and Minx Palace, that is. They're both going to be kind of sitting similar trips, and you're going to get at least twice the price, I would think, on the number 8 than you will on the 9. So I didn't have the balls that you had to single Minx Palace, but I did want to take a lot of horses coming from off the pace.
Yeah, she's not impossible. 15-1 is a fair price.
Okay. You used Our Disaster in second. One of the top speed candidates in here, drew nicely to the outside of Hilarito for Saffie Joseph, who's 2 for 2 at Kentucky right now.
Yeah, look, she is the horse to beat. I don't think there's any doubt about that. On her best day, I think her best is probably a little bit better than these, but she's been getting easy leads, and I don't think she's going to get the easy lead in this spot. There's a lot of other speed in this race, and I think if she clears this field somehow, then other riders messed up. And I know you're pulling up a stat that doesn't mean anything to me, but go ahead and talk about it, because go ahead.
I'll never bet Saffie Joseph on a stake race in Kentucky. I can't. He inexplicably loses them in ways that I didn't think was possible. So I had to pull up the stat while you talked about Our Disaster, but obviously has a chance.
No, again, if she somehow clears this field and gets these leads, she's going to be very dangerous. I just don't see how that's possible unless there's a bunch of scratches. And then, in that case, then we're going to be audibling. So who cares about that scenario? So, look, she's the horse to beat. She's the most likely winner. I much prefer the 9.
I'm with you. Another horse that I picked Another horse that I picked is the number 10, Helena's Forte for Phil Bauer. This one just feels like one of those classic IRAD horses going 1 turn. I used this one in my pick 5 a little bit defensively, and I hate that word. This is a horse that I don't think is going to take a whole lot of money. I wouldn't anticipate her being lower than 7-2. I think that there's enough money that's kind of going to go elsewhere. She has some efforts to get back to, and she is one that has come from off the pace before. I looked at the effort 3 back when Irad Ortiz was aboard last, and in fact, Irad has her last 2 wins. Sorry, 2 of her last 3 wins were when Irad was aboard, and they were both very nice trips. The race 3 back was in the slop, so you could say maybe that was the. Actually, I remember that race now that I'm looking at the. I remember that race in the honorable miss now that I look at it. Hey, 4 out of 5, baby.
She cost about $10,000 that day when she won.
She did, but she still gave you a nice little cut for that 4 out of 5. Which ridiculous, by the way.
The problem with that race is it is such an outlier from everything else she's done this year. And it also came on a huge rail bias that she rode the entire way to victory. So at 7-2, I don't need her anywhere. She can beat me.
That's very fair. She's just one that I didn't want to let beat me. I'm happy to get beat by a horse like Our Disaster, Hilarito. Helena's Forte, I thought just had a run style that could set up well in this race. And she's going to have a clean trip from the outside. Just one I wanted to include. I could afford it with my ticket. Yeah, one I wanted to throw in there. I don't have super high hopes, but one that I think certainly fits on her best day. And she's fired some really strong shots at Churchill Downs as well, with 3 of her 6 wins coming here. So that'll be race number 10. I'm going 9, 8, 10. Jackson's going. Oh, actually, Jackson, you got to talk about the 3 in Jersey Pearl 10-1.
No, just super quick. I think she's a horse that has at least proven that she can sit a length or 2 off and still be effective. She's run numbers that are good enough to be close. I do think she probably needs a step forward and some things to go her way for her to win this race.
Yeah, certainly. But at 10-1, I think that if things set up right, you can be right because paired up some nice buyer speed figures, came back nicely off the layoff in that optional claiming event, and Darren Miller steps her right up into stakes competition. So at least you have the vote of confidence there. She could certainly take another step up. She's 2 for 2 at Churchill. She clearly loves it here. So second off the layoff, 10-1. You should get every bit of that, if not maybe a little bit more. That will wrap up race number 10. I'm going 9-8-10. Jackson is going 9-7-3. We'll move on to race number 11. Race 11 is a grade 3. It's the grade 3 River City Stakes. They're going 9 furlongs for 3-year-olds and upwards for $300,000. I went 7-6-12. Jackson went 6-2-9. Your clear favorite is the number 6. But I just wanted to, I'm looking around. Here he is. We got to talk about the 9. I thought this guy retired. You picked Laganos in 3rd, but Frankie Dettori once again in the saddle at Churchill Downs?
I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those placeholders that they're just putting a name on there. And then, Wesley Ward does this all the time. He'll put a name on.
He does.
That is never going to actually ride the horse, and then he'll pick a new jockey the day of. So I don't know.
You did pick Laganos in 3rd, so I wanted to give you a chance to speak on this one.
Yeah. Talk about the horse?
Yeah. You picked him.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought we're going out of order. Got you.
Yeah. A little out of order.
Look, he's a horse. I've always thought this horse has had a lot of talent. He kind of plateaued this year. He's kind of running the same race. And it seemed like he may have finally put it together at Kentucky Downs. Now, that was Kentucky Downs, so you may want to hold that form a bit of a grain of salt. But it's not like he was running huge at Kentucky Downs last year and then not running as good. His worst race last year was at Kentucky Downs. So maybe he is just a horse that's kind of finally turned the corner because both of those races were pretty good. I thought that race, especially the grade 3 where he ran against Epic Ride. Later in the meet, I thought the rail got pretty good at Kentucky Downs. And obviously he broke from post 14 or 13 that day and was always wide. And I thought for him to finish second was still pretty good, even though he was beaten as the favorite. Obviously the race 2 back, if he's able to replicate that performance, he's going to win this thing. I'm not sure you want to be banking on that, but his true ability probably lies somewhere in the middle of those 2 efforts. So I'm hoping he can just replicate those races and get himself into the mix.
Yeah, he's one that was close to making it on my ticket, but I couldn't quite get there. I'll quickly talk about the 12 before we really get into our top picks in here. But the 12, Taking Candy, I thought had an outside chance, certainly to finish in the money. Winside is going to be a little bit tougher to get there. But I do think that this one at least has some consistent numbers, is an off-the-pace type, and I think from post 12, that run style is going to help because Axel's going to have no shot trying to go forward. Definitely has to drop back a little bit, try and save as much ground as he can, but this is a mid-pack runner, so maybe he can kind of work out a trip from anywhere in there, and we'll see what he makes of it towards the end, but I couldn't pick this one as a primary win candidate in a race this competitive. We will go to the number 6 in Chasing the Crown, though. This is your morning line favorite, I believe, and a deserving one at that. 7-2, lukewarm, but Chasing the Crown off of back-to-back 100 buyer speed figures. You picked this one in first, Jackson, so I'll let you talk about him. I picked him in second.
Yeah, I spent a long time on this race, and I originally really wanted to try to beat him, and then I kept looking at the other horses, and I kept coming back to him. Oh, let me look at the other horses again. And I just kept coming back to this horse. I feel like he's going to be really difficult to beat, isn't he? If he runs back to any of his last 2 races, even the race 3 back last year, he closed into a crawling pace and won. I think any of those efforts, he's right there in the mix if he runs back to those races. There's a lot of speed in here. He's supposed to get a setup. He loves Churchill Downs. He's got a red-hot barn. Michael Maker is winning everything right now. Gaffleone is winning everything right now. I just felt like every arrow is kind of pointing in this horse's direction. And if he is 7-2, that's extreme value, I think. I think he's closer to more like a 2-1 shot against this group. So he's far and away my top pick in here, and it's going to take a big effort from someone else to beat this horse.
I'm with you. Chasing the Crown, absolutely the horse to beat. Those last 2 efforts were very, very good. Even that race 2 back, it was all the way back in January, but came off all that time off to run at Kentucky Downs, duplicated that effort, and this time got the job done, beating Lambeth and Mountain Bear. It was a bit of a weird race last time out, other than it being at Kentucky Downs. When you look at the buyer speed figures for the next out races, the 2nd and 3rd place finishers and 5th actually all regressed, but everybody else took a step up. Sherlock's Jewel kind of took maybe a slight step down, but everybody else kind of took a step up. Gigante and Emmanuel came out next out to win races. and drastically improve their buyers. So it's kind of that classic Kentucky Downs form where, the last place finisher could come out and improve, and the horse that finishes second could run like a donkey next time out. So that's Kentucky Downs in a nutshell. But needless to say, Chasing the Crown held that form from Gulfstream Park in the late winter, almost early spring in January during the championship meet, all the way to the late summer at Kentucky Downs. This is just a horse that I think is rounding into good form. 6 years old, that's the Mike Maker special. And again, you mentioned it, Maker and Gaffleone, they haven't lost. They're on an absolute tear right now. I did think that Mercante had an outside chance to beat him, just because this is kind of that horse that randomly will step up and fire big, and you are going to get a good price on this runner this time, which is not something you could always say. 3-4 back, 4 back won at about 3-1. 3 back failed as the favorite at Ellis Park. You're going to get 10-1. I do believe that price should stick. I'm willing to forgive the turf mile effort just because, you had Rhetorical come out of there. Rhetorical ran, I believe, 4th in the Breeders' Cup mile. That pace, I don't want to say it. We can look at the race chart. I don't want to say it fell apart, but the pace setters definitely were not there towards the end of it. But you had horses that made a ton of sense. And Rhetorical, Program Trading, Brilliant Birdie, Jonquil, and then that horse Diego Velasquez that somehow always goes off favor when he would run over here. But Mercante, I think, is getting back to a track that he's proven he likes. A distance, I think the 9 furlongs is among his best, or is one of his best distances. I didn't like him going the 1.5 miles. I think that was maybe a little bit too far. I think a mile's a little bit too sharp for him. Anywhere from that 8.5 to 9.5 furlongs, I think, is right in his wheelhouse. So naturally, I gotta love the 1.5 mile at Churchill Downs. Turf Classic was a very good race, running behind Spirit of St. Louis. We had a common runner earlier that we were talking about that also came out of that race. I already forgot the name, but anyway, Mercante, I think you're finally going to get a decent price on this runner. So I went 6-7 in here in my pick 5, and not just for the meme purposes, but I do like the value that Mercante is going to provide here.
Yeah, I disagree with what you said about him randomly jumping up and running big races, because when he got good, it was gradually he got into form, and he's been bad for his last 4. He's going the wrong way. Now you're going to take 10-1 on him? Like the Turf Mile, he was terrible. Was he not?
Yeah, he wasn't good, but he was 60-1. He wasn't supposed to be good.
And the pace fell apart, and he stayed in last. At least pick up some pieces. He didn't even do that.
I guess not, but he was way overmatched in that field. So I think he's just getting back to a race that's well within his scope. I think he is kind of that grade 3 horse. He's knocked on the door for a couple of grade 1s, but I think grade 3 is kind of where he belongs. And when he was in the Arlington going 8.5 here, earlier in the spring, he won that race given just by a neck, but beat a horse like Brilliant Birdie, beat Laganos. So I don't think I would disagree also that he rounded into form. He was running mid-80s at Turfway, and then he jumped up to a 101. Then he duplicated the 101 in the Turf Classic. And then he kind of, he regressed back to the mean. And then again, I'm willing to draw a line through that last out. But I do think he's capable of a bigger run, and I think the price is mainly what attracted me to him. So I think Chasing the Crown, certainly the horse to beat, but I do think Mercante deserves some love, at least from me on my tickets. But we can disagree there. Quick checking with the chat. Steven, great news about joining the money. Good for you guys. I appreciate that, Steven. Katie's here. You couldn't take a week break without picking horses? Absolutely not. Where would be the fun in taking a break? I'm right back to Del Mar tomorrow. It's just nonstop. I know, right? Boo-hoo. Let me cry about it. No, it's the best. It's the best job on the planet. It really doesn't feel like work. And Jackson, I'm sure you share the same sentiments as me. Before we wrap this thing up and get into our pick 5 tickets, one more time, if you are watching this, you got to talk about the 2. But one more time, if you are watching this on any channels that are not In the Money, you got to go over to In the Money, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already, follow them on X, and be sure to turn on those notifications, because that's where you're going to be able to catch all of the content that you and I are going to produce for the rest of this, for the duration, I would say, for the foreseeable future. They're all going to be on the In the Money platforms. Chris Couples in the chat. Encino has gotten really good and is going to sit the pocket behind 2 and 3. And Marco, when will Fox Sports call you? Fox Sports has got to call one of us at some point. You would have to imagine. But let's go to the 4 Encino. Jackson, let's talk about this one. Do you think this one's going to kind of sit that pocket trip? I feel like Encino's best up on the lead, right?
I do think he's best in the lead, but the last race at least proved he is capable of, sitting back and making one run. I'd be curious. Was that Chris that commented that? I don't know if Chris does numbers for Churchill Downs. I'd be curious what that number was because, he closed in the slow pace and won that race pretty decisively. So I wonder if you maybe, want to upgrade that one a little bit. I agree. He's another contender in this race where contention runs deep. I didn't love that he lost to Epic Ride 2-back, who I do prefer Epic Ride. He's my second pick in this race. And I think if you want anyone out of that Kentucky or out of the Keeneland Turf Mile, Epic Ride was always on top of the pace. He wasn't in front, but he was sitting in the pocket and didn't exactly have clear running late in the stretch. I think, and this is something else that Chris and I talked about, that you maybe closing the stretch on the rail opening weekend wasn't exactly the best spot. 99, that's quite a big difference. Interesting. I don't know if he really wanted to be closing on the rail opening weekend at Keeneland, which is what he was trying to do. And he wasn't ever clear per se. And then he kind of got checked super late. And I think the margin of defeat got exaggerated a little bit. But look, the race 2-back was really good at Kentucky Downs for that horse. And he's a horse that seems like he's kind of figured it out lately. And if Epic Ride, if he's able to sit the pocket like he did last time, and this time maybe get out of there, I think he's very, very interesting at a price. And he's in excellent form right now.
He is in excellent form. He had that obviously he started off very strong. He got to the Derby. They had to reset a little bit, and he's tried all three surfaces, and he's won on all three surfaces. So not every time you can see a horse that can do that. That's very talented. But yeah, Epic Ride, I do think his best is on turf. And I'm with you. I think that he could have a much better effort right now. You mentioned the bias at Keeneland that opening weekend. That was definitely prevalent.
Potentially.
Okay, potentially. I mean, nothing like the absolute set in stone Jerkins bounce that our buddy Noah has now set in stone.
I will say, but you have Epic Ride at 8-1 and Mercante at 10-1. I don't think there's anyone else in the world that's taking Mercante at 10-1 except maybe the other guy on the screen. That's about it.
Hey, I probably would, because I mean, Epic Ride's main win was at Kentucky Downs and it was on the lead. So I don't know that I want to trust that horse yet. 8-1 is fair though. I
will say the 9 furlongs is probably the biggest question for him. I don't know if he really wants to go 9 furlongs against this caliber, but that's why he's going to be a bit of price.
I agree. Should be noted that he's also cross-entered into a November 7th race. That is tomorrow. So we'll see if he ends up running there. I'd imagine he'd be a pretty heavy favorite depending on where he ends up. That is race number 11. I'm going 7-6-12. Jackson is going 6-2-9. I'll put us back on the screen as we are going to throw up our pick 5 tickets. And we'll just go over them very quickly. But once again, catch us on In the Money. So if you're watching on anything that's not an In the Money platform, so if you're not on the In the Money X channel or In the Money YouTube, we certainly encourage you to do so. Give them a follow, turn on notifications if you don't follow, and subscribe to them already. Come participate in the live chat next week on our YouTube channels. We always appreciate it. We love throwing up the comments, seeing all the people that are tuning into this excellent content that we are providing. And make sure you tune into In the Money, because that's where all of our streams are going to be for the foreseeable future. Pick 5 tickets rather are up on the screen. Jackson's $54, mine's $40. I think that kind of, that's very fair. We gave ourselves a $100 budget. We're well under that. But I think this is a relatively challenging sequence where you need to spread. So I'll let you talk about your sequence first. Obviously, big single of Minx Palace.
Yeah, and full disclosure, this is probably a pick 5 that I would play pretty lightly. I'm much more interested in the pick 3 that has a $3 minimum. And plus, I think my stronger opinions are the last 3 races anyways. So as far as the pick 5, that first race, just try to survive it. Tossed a couple horses that are short prices I don't love, and hopefully we get one of the prices home in there. Second leg, I doubled up with the favorite and Cherie. I think I can do that because I have a single later that's a big price. So I'm going to try to skate by with just those 2. That third leg, though, I do think is interesting because I don't like Gardner at all. I don't like Kalahari Dreams at all. They're going to take all the money in that spot, and I have 3 prices in there. So if we can get one of those horses home, this thing's going to really open up the pick 5. And then again, in the Dream Supreme race, you and I are both on Minx Palace. I think she is sitting on a big race. I think she's supposed to get a really nice setup in there with all the speed. And she loves Churchill Downs. She's got the outside post. I just think there's a lot to like about that filly. So I feel very comfortable singling her in that spot, and maybe we'll get a little extra value in the pick 5 off of the morning line. So I'm going to single her and then try to get by in the last race with the 3 we mentioned. I do think Chasing the Crown is way the horse to beat if I'm playing the pick 3. I'll come back and press him up a little bit because to me, he's way the horse to beat, but I do want to use those other two in some capacity. And the other two are Epic Ride and Muniz. Both ran well at Kentucky Downs. Both are in good form. Both should be somewhat forwardly placed. So those are three I'm going to try to get by with. But I like that pick 5 ticket. I think it has a chance to pay quite a bit if we're right about it.
Yeah, I like it too. Mine is a little bit different. I'm going 5 deep in the first leg. I feel like that's definitely the biggest spread leg of the sequence. I think your ticket also reflects that. Next leg, I'm going to single that horse, the first-time starter for Cox, Don Alberto, and Irad Ortiz, Degmara, I believe is the name. But love those Omaha Beach first-time starters, and certainly the dam side screams win early and win on turf going long. I'll go 2 deep in the next. I am going to use the 2-horse whose name I'm Gardner, but top pick being Jack's Time in there. Might press that one up, maybe a little bit more. I went 7, 8, 9, 10 in the first of 2 stake races. I did think Our Disaster. Wanted to throw that one in just because I know I hate using Safi in stake races at Kentucky. But being real, it's a pretty pointless stat. But that being said, outside speed, I think Our Disaster, if she runs back to that previous effort, I think a lot of them are in trouble. And I think with some real intention, she could possibly get to the front. Last race, going 6, 7. I think Chasing the Crown makes a lot of sense, but I got to take another shot at Mercante. He's a horse where you don't always get the value. He's able to, pop with some big efforts. And I do think grade 3 and Churchill Downs, I think that's kind of his company. Same with the 9 furlongs. So going that $40 ticket for me, $54 ticket for Jackson. Jackson, this is a fun show as always. We're on In the Money now, man. So we will be back next week with another surely thrilling sequence. Got to look to see what stake races are where, but we'll probably be out west at Del Mar if I had to guess. We probably haven't covered Del Mar as much as we want to.
Yeah, and not too many chances to, right? Because there's only 2 or 3 weeks left. So yeah, we'll see what the cards look like, and looking forward to it
as always. 3 weeks left at Del Mar before that turf festival, but only about 3 seconds left in this wonderful show. Thank you guys for joining us. We're thrilled to be part of In the Money. Be sure to go over and check out their website. That's inthemoneypodcast.com. And you can listen to us now, available on audio, anywhere you get your podcasts. For co-host Jackson Muniz, I'm Ryan Anderson. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys next week here on the Gallop Out